once they know what they're going to do, with every second, Devin, that goes by that you don't implement, the chance increases, maybe exponentially, that word is going to get out, that someone's going to find out, that someone who knows is going to say something to a reporter to curry favor with the reporter. It's part of the whole sausage-making process, and I'm frankly there with the meat grinder. I mean, I'm part of it, so I just understand how it works. If you know you're doing it, and it's clear they knew. It's clear they knew. The statement with the, fancy font and background, that thing just didn't fall out of the sky. You don't just sit down and crank that out and say, I'll go ahead and release it. If we need to make any changes, we'll make them later. That thing is produced in agonizing detail to make sure they strike the right tone, they have the right content, what's the right message, let's talk to this person, let's talk to that person. They knew they were doing this, and I think that's what it comes down to. They knew they were doing it, so do we delay it and let Jerod Mayo find out from someone else, or do we just tell him as soon as we can and move on? And there's no good way out of that. There's no easy way to do it that's going to make everyone happy. But you're right. Ideally, look what the Jaguars did. Kudos to them. Nobody knew for sure that Doug Peterson was going to be fired. Yep. Nobody was hearing that he's out. We all thought, how can he not be? When the owner tells the world before the season, right before the season, this is the best team the Jaguars have ever compiled, and it just completely falls apart from day one, you kind of have the feeling that the guy's going to be out. But I don't know whether it's because we don't care about the Jaguars. Sorry, Jacksonville, but most people don't care about the Jaguars because they haven't been relevant. They had that one flash against Devin's Patriots where they had a chance to go up 17 in the fourth quarter, and but for a bad call, fumble, Miles Jack touchdown, that came back. That never happened. That didn't even get overturned by replay review, if I recall correctly. Did it? It should have. It didn't. I can't remember. It's been 7 years. That's a long time. That's a long time as your brain ages, let me tell you. But regardless, that's the last time the Jaguars were relevant, so people are paying attention the same way. Reporters aren't crawling all over sources there to find out what's going on, but they were able to keep it under wraps until Monday. And I think ideally that's what the Patriots would have done. But, Devin, people knew. They knew. I wonder if Jerod Mayo caught wind of it. Robert Kraft said he didn't tell him before the game. I just wonder if he caught wind of it before the game, because what a parting gift for Mr. Kraft. There goes your number 1 overall pick next year. Bye-bye. We went and beat the Bills.
And it was interesting because I thought the same thing of like, man, well, if he did know, he went out and said, F it. But then you look and you're like, they played the third-string quarterback. Like, they took out guys. They did what they could to almost lose the game to a sense. Shout out Joe Milton, who got an opportunity and went out there and was balling. But I do think it felt like he knew when he did the press conference after the game because, and again, it's hard to really know. I reached out to him and just gave my, thoughts of what happened yesterday. But overall, like I haven't talked to him, but his energy, even in the press conference, just had the feeling of, as you watch, like, man, like this doesn't seem like this is going to have a good ending story for that staff because of just the way he was answering. You could just kind of feel it, that it didn't seem like he thought he would be back next year, even no matter what the words, like you said earlier, just body language felt a little off. And, and I know Patriots fans walk away from the season even pissed off in the finale of like, how could you go win that game when we had the number 1 pick? But I think it comes down to a little bit more of what you said of Buffalo was like, hold on, like we see Drake May. We think he's a pretty good player. And I think Sean McDermott even said it after the game, like, hey, how can we get them to trade Drake May out of there? And I think they're like, let's not just give them the number 1 pick. We don't know what that means, what they'll do with it, what picks they can trade it for. Like, who knows what the future holds? We just know it looks a little bit better if they don't have the number 1 pick. And it felt like they were like, we can muddy this up and play a little bit worse than you and make sure you win this game. And the Patriots come away with the victory. But I would say overall, you look at that whole situation, and from beginning to end, you have this head coach who drafts this first-round pick, 10th overall, comes in my time there, and I said it before on this show, of they had such a special relationship that Jerod was the true kind of leader on our defense and on our team. Like, we couldn't make any checks on defense, Belichick would tell us, unless Jerod said it. and they had this good relationship. Jerod came back to coach in 19 because Bill called him and asked him. And then ultimately you look, and those two guys have a falling out. They don't talk, which then leads to, Belichick and Kraft don't really talk anymore. So you have these fractured relationships. Then now, a year later, it looks like I don't know how much interaction Jerod and the Krafts will have going forward after this falling apart and debacle in New England. So you look at all of these special relationships, all of the wins and the positivity, and it all falls by the wayside. And I'm sure all in the hopes that Mike Vrabel, one of the Patriot legends, Patriot Hall of Famers, comes back and tries to steer this ship in the right direction. And after all of this turmoil and bad things happen, I do think if they get a guy like Mike Vrabel, unbelievable coach, what he was able to do in Tennessee. I've talked to guys like Logan Ryan, who was in New England, who then went to Tennessee, raved about Vrabel. It's not an easy organization to be a part of, an easy team to be on with Vrabel. He's going to be hard-nosed. He's going to do some things the hard way. But ultimately, guys felt like they could win. They went to Baltimore in 2019 and beat Baltimore, who was the number 1 seed. Like, they came to New England, beat us. Like, there's belief in when you play for Mike Vrabel that you're going to have chances to go win big games. So if he is the guy, I think, which the Krafts had to deal with, of the pressure from the fan base, I think he's the guy that a lot of the fan base want back in New England and leading the team. So if he is the guy, I do think ultimately for New England, that is going to be a chance to have a good football team and have a guy lead your organization who has proven he can do it.
I'll spin it forward with Vrabel in a second, but to address the point about Jerod Mayo sensing it's coming. In the movie world, Tommy DeVito thinks he's going to get made, and as he walks in the door and no one's there, they put a bullet in his head. In the real world, you sense it's coming. You know something's off, and they're not setting you up. They didn't say to Jerod Mayo, hey, we're having a special party for you after you finish your first season. Get ready. It's going to be great, and let's go to the party. And then as he walks in the door, they say, oh, here's the party. You're fired. Like, you get the sense at some point on Sunday, there's no way human beings can hide it. I don't care what kind of poker face you have. At some point, there's going to be a moment where Robert Kraft looks away at a specific time that sends a message. You can't keep it together all the time you're around this person that you're about to fire, especially if he felt as guilty about it as he did. He would have been melancholy. He would have been sad. He would have been fidgety. Jerod Mayo he had to have picked up something in the body language and in the words of Robert Kraft on Sunday to have an idea that something bad was going to happen after the season ended. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.